Hello, good evening. Welcome to Look North. Our top story tonight, the first steps to freedom as the government announces a plan to leave lockdown. Schools can reopen fully in 2 weeks' time. The Prime Minister says it's safe. Some teachers and parents think it should be happening more slowly.
I myself feel a bit apprehensive about them all going back in one go. I would have preferred the staggered approach of kids entering.
So when will the rest of our lives return to normal? It'll be at least another 5 weeks before all shops, hairdressers and outdoor hospitality can reopen. We'll have reaction from business. Additional COVID testing starts in parts of Leeds after 2 possible cases of the South African variant were found last month. And flying high, we meet Motley, the pet macaw who's become a bit of a local celebrity as he takes his daily exercise in the Peak District.
Well, how lovely was that blue sky this afternoon? What's it looking like for the rest of the week? Join me for the detailed forecast.
I hope you're well. Welcome to Monday's Look North. So the Prime Minister has set out what he calls a cautious approach to easing lockdown measures. It'll be 4 months until our lives can return to any sense of normality, but let's have a look at the timetable for the relaxing of the restrictions if things do go to plan. Let's start with children. All are due to return to school from March the 8th. And from that date, 2 people will also be able to socialise in an outdoor public space. We'll have to wait until the end of March for more freedom, and this will include outdoor gatherings of up to 6 people or 2 households, being able to travel outside of our local area, and outdoor sports like tennis and golf will resume. In April, all shops, hairdressers and beauty salons could reopen, along with gyms and outdoor hospitality like beer gardens. And we can go on domestic holidays with our household. Let's fast forward to May. Social contact limits could be eased with some indoor mixing allowed, including inside a pub or cinema. And we'll have to wait until mid-June for an end to all legal limits on social contact. Tonight, we'll have reaction from local businesses and answer some of your questions about the route out of lockdown. But we'll start with the controversial decision to reopen all schools in just a fortnight's time. Corinne Wheatley reports.
Today is back to school day for 2 of Sonia's children. The family has been homeschooling so far this term, but it's been really tough. So they're returning early to classes at All Saints Primary School in Bradford.
Everybody's struggling. And we're not qualified teachers at home, and it means a lot. Our children, you feel like a failure, even though you're trying so hard, you're doing everything, but you feel like a failure. Every morning you wake up, there's no routine.
Many other families here have struggled this time around, but now one thing is clear. Schools will reopen from the 8th of March.
2 weeks from today, pupils and students in all schools and further education settings can safely return to face-to-face teaching, supported by twice-weekly testing of secondary school and college pupils.
Education unions have been calling for a staggered return of pupils. Head teacher John Davey agrees.
I think particularly for the older children in primary and secondary, I think that would be a more manageable and safer approach. For the younger children, it's very difficult for any kind of social distancing in primary schools. I'm a bit disappointed and surprised that isn't going to be happening. But we're just going to have to manage with the situation that we've got.
Fozia has 3 children learning at home and her youngest in school. She too was worried about them all going back at once.
The children have been away from large groups for so long that I think, especially the younger ones, I think they'll be confused. She's in her class, I think, with maybe 10 to 12 children at the moment, and I just think she enjoys that. But when you've got a class of 30 back in, I think, especially the young ones, they'll feel quite overwhelmed.
There are now 2 weeks to prepare. John says there are key issues that need to be addressed.
We've got 680 children, we've got 120 staff. That's an awful lot of people mixing together when there is still COVID around. And as far as I'm aware, at the moment, only 2 of us have had the vaccination out of that 120 staff. So I would hope that more staff will be prioritised for the vaccination.
And John says it's vital that the disruption of the last year is not repeated. So when the school gates reopen to all, they're reopening for good. Corinne Wheatley, BBC Look North, Bradford.
So some people wary there about all schools reopening on the 8th of March. I've been getting reaction from Sally Kincaid from the National Education Union in Yorkshire and Matt Perry, he's a head teacher at Halifax Academy.
I think it's news we were expecting with the leaks in the media and also the signposting of the government. As an educationalist, I'm looking forward to seeing all the children return. Obviously, I have a lot of questions after the announcement today regarding testing. But yeah, I think it's quite positive that children are coming back to school. It's where they belong. You mentioned testing there. Surely that's the safest way to get students back? Well, I think there's a danger of over-reliance on lateral flow devices. I think all of the protocols that schools have put in place already to make sure that they're as safe as possible are very, very important. And I think testing for students and for staff is an additional measure as opposed to a replacement. Sally, you're concerned about students all going back at the same time, is that right?
Well, absolutely. No matter how much testing, rapid flow testing there is, it's not safe. We wanted to see schools opening, but people's being phased in so we could keep an eye on whether the virus was spreading or not.
But the government's prioritising education over everything else. It's opening up first.
Yes, but he needs to do it safely. I mean, look at what's happening in Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales, where they're bringing small groups of children, pupils and young people. I don't think if we rush back, we've got 10 million people who work in schools or go to school on one day. It could have horrific consequences. We want them to follow the science and not just giving us dates and dates and dates.
Do you feel safe opening back up on the 8th of March?
I think safe is a very difficult word to quantify. I think when there is a virus, when there's this pandemic going on, I think it'd be foolhardy of any head to say their school is safe. I make it, and the team that I have around me and the site team and the administrative team that I have around me, we try and make it as safe as possible. And that's all we can do, is having the protocols and the controls that we have in school, with hand washing, with ventilation, with the social distancing measures we have in school. And so far, we've had no transmission cases in school where staff have been infected as a result of anything that's happened in schools. Sally, would your opinion to schools reopening altogether on the 8th of March be different if teachers were higher up on the vaccination list?
Trouble with the vaccination is that, I want teachers and school staff to be vaccinated, obviously, but it doesn't stop you getting COVID. A teacher friend of mine last week she's had a vaccine, but ended up in A&E. Luckily, she's out now. So, the vaccine is important, but it's not going to stop the spread of the virus. So let's not use it as a panacea to cure all ills. Let's use it as another thing that we've got in our back pockets.
Last question to you, Matt, to end. Would you feel safer opening up on the 8th of March if all your teachers were vaccinated?
I think vaccinating teachers would be brilliant. Again, I agree with Sally there. I think trying to make sure that staff are vaccinated, it's only one strand in dealing with this. And I think the challenges of community transmission don't go away with vaccination. But I'd want my staff to be vaccinated as soon as possible.
Sally Kincaid and Matt Perry, thank you for your time. So that's reaction to schools reopening in just 2 weeks' time. What about businesses? How have they reacted to the Prime Minister's announcement? In many sectors, it seems they won't be allowed to open as early as initially hoped. That's left some small companies here in Yorkshire feeling very disappointed. Here's our business correspondent, Spencer Stokes.
A roadmap that this time appears to be avoiding the fastest routes. Businesses know what the destination looks like, but it's still not clear how long the journey will take. First to an independent retailer in Cleckheaton. This morning they were sorting out stock at Glitterati, hopeful there would be a speedy reopening. But now the date being discussed is April the 12th. It could be another couple of months then before you reopen. Sue, how do you feel?
I feel really, really disheartened about that. If that is going to be the case, another 7-8 weeks from now is not what I anticipated. I was thinking when the kids go back to school on I think it's the 8th, isn't it? Maybe a week or two after the kids go back to school. But if it stretches for another 2 months, that's just not a good sign for retail.
Hospitality has been hit particularly hard by lockdowns and restrictions. Mojo have bars in Leeds and Harrogate. They'd hoped for an early May opening, but fear it could be late June or even July.
We had quite prolonged discussions with our bank, and we decided that we would project out till summer, so out till July, August, never thinking that would come to pass. And we need a society, an economy that's putting money into government coffers so that, quite frankly, we can pay for the NHS so that the NHS can protect us. Because right now, we have a one-way street and we're just pouring money out of the economy. And at some point, that runs out. It bodes ill for everybody.
Tourism has also been left disappointed. Woodhouse Farm near Ripon focused on Easter to kickstart their year. It looks like they'll miss out by a couple of weeks.
We are booked up for Easter, got lots of caravans coming. Self-catering accommodation should be allowed to come. They've got their own wash facilities, their own kitchen in the caravans. So we wouldn't expect to open a bar and restaurant and a play barn, which is a real shame. But I think as a gentle kind of easing out of lockdown into the hospitality sector, self-catering is a sensible option.
At any point, the map could change, but it does seem this time education and social contact have been given priority over the economy on the long road ahead. Spencer Stokes, BBC Look North.
Well, earlier we spoke to Dan Jarvis, the Mayor of South Yorkshire and Labour MP for Barnsley Central. He's backing the plan, but he's calling for more support for businesses over the next few months.
The rollout of the vaccine is going very well in South Yorkshire and across the country, and that is hugely positive. But we all understand the economic consequences will be carried for many, many months and no doubt years to come. So we'll be keeping a very close eye on that. But this is a positive announcement. I'm pleased that it will give hope to many who now have some sense of being able to kind of think about being able to get on with their lives in the way that they haven't been done in recent times. But we're not there yet, and we still need the government to make sure that the economic support is in place to accompany the lifting of the restrictions when they come.
Now, the government's plan for relaxing lockdown includes a focus on local testing. Today, a week of surge testing started in parts of Leeds after 2 possible cases of the South African variant of COVID-19 were found in January. People living in parts of LS7, LS8 and LS9 postcodes have been invited to take a test even if they don't have symptoms. Our health correspondent Jamie Coulson reports.
Do one side, then the other side. You ready?
Surge testing began in Leeds today as part of efforts to monitor new variants of COVID-19 and how they might spread in communities. The government asked the council to provide additional testing in parts of the city after 2 possible cases of the South African variant were detected in January. The surge testing is concentrated on selected areas to the northeast of Leeds, with people living in these postcode areas being invited to take a test. It's available to anyone over the age of 16 who is asymptomatic and hasn't tested positive in the last 90 days.
If you know you're okay health-wise, hence if this is okay for me, then what more peace of mind can I have?
We got the notification through work just to say that there's been a surge testing in Leeds for certain postcode areas. Just for peace of mind with work, they asked me to come along.
Testing is taking place here at the Infinity Centre from today through until Sunday. But there are also teams of volunteers out in the community who are knocking on doors to try and reach as many people as possible. Surge testing is currently being carried out in at least 15 other targeted areas of England, with positive results undergoing further laboratory analysis to test for new variants. When people see that there is surge testing taking place in Leeds in this area, should they be concerned?
There is no indication in this area that we have a South African live case. That's not the case at all. The numbers within this area have been consistently falling in line with the rest of the city. The testing that's being done within the area is additional testing just to better understand how different variants work within the community. It's a proactive approach more than anything, really.
The council are hoping to test 5,000 people during the week of testing. Jamie Coulson, BBC Look North.
Now, as always, after a government announcement, you've been sending in your questions about today, and we've been digging through all the small print to get some answers for you. Tom Ingle is here. He's been doing all the hard work. Can't take any credit for it.
Not entirely me. We've had a team of us in the newsroom. 68 pages in the government document. So if people at home want to check our working, you need to set your search engine for Government Coronavirus Roadmap Spring 2021. Worth reminding at this stage, there are 4 steps, as we know. They are going to be 5 weeks apart, assuming everything goes to plan, and there are 4 tests applied at each time they want to move to the next step.
And what are those steps? What will the government be looking for?
Well, they want to look at how well the vaccine rollout is going. That seems fair enough. We're all watching that bar chart progress day by day, aren't we? They want to see how effective the vaccine is, and the early data does look promising at reducing deaths and hospitalisations. They want to look at the infection rates to ensure that they are not being at a point where they could overwhelm the NHS. And, of course, most pressingly, you've just been talking about the South African variant. They want to see if there's any variants of concern that emerge during this process.
OK, let's get on to the viewers' questions. Adrian asks, when can I visit and stay overnight at my daughter's house in Staffordshire?
Yeah, well, Adrian, that is the question we're all asking, isn't it? I've got parents at the other end of the country, so hello, mum and dad. Don't crack open the guest laundry just yet, though. The rule of 6 or 2 households applies from the 29th of March, so you could potentially go and have an outside cup of coffee, but I'm afraid you cannot go and have an overnight stay until step 3, no earlier than the 17th of May.
I'm impressed that you have guest laundry, Tom. Ian in Pontefract asks, when will I be able to return to my holiday home?
Well, it looks like self-contained accommodation, so you've got your own ensuite, and if it is just going to be you or your household or support bubble, that could potentially resume from step 2, no earlier than the 12th of April, that the advice is still to minimise travel at that stage.
Susan says, when will weddings be allowed? My daughter's postponed hers twice now. A lot of people in the same situation.
Yeah, and I've bought so many hats and not been able to wear them. It depends how big your wedding is. If you're having an everyone in the world is coming, definitely not until after June 21st, and then assuming everything goes to plan. Before that, you can have smaller events.
Alison asks, will the government do something to help care home residents to be reunited with their families?
Yeah, well, they're telling us that from March the 8th, so 2 weeks, one regular visitor can go, tested every time, wearing PPE, possibly 2 visitors from the 12th of April when step 2 is due to kick in. Before then, apparently, care homes should do everything they can to allow visits with screens, pods, or even outdoor visits, and there will apparently be more details on care homes next week.
Many of us are desperate for a holiday, Tom, and there's a question here saying, is travel going to be easier? Will we need COVID tests before we go away?
You'll be very relieved to know my Speedos are still in the drawer. They are not coming out anytime soon. May the 17th, depending not just on the vaccine rollout here, but the vaccine rollout abroad as well. And that will also depend on an international travel review team reporting back and giving the thumbs up.
Natasha, what do the developments mean for people who are shielding?
Well, I searched through the document. There were only a couple of mentions of shielding. The one I think is the most important is the government says no one who is currently shielding should have to shield beyond the 29th of March, assuming everything goes to plan.
Tom, thank you, and I have this horrible image of you in your Speedos in my head now.
It's not too bad, you know.
Keep those questions coming in, because over the next few days we will be answering those again. Well, it's certainly going to be a gradual easing of restrictions, but finally we can start to dream, can't we, about happier times ahead. Some of you have been sending us your hopes for the future, all things that you're looking forward to doing once lockdown is lifted. Take a look.
After lockdown, I'm looking forward to going to dancing and seeing my friends again.
When lockdown ends, I can't wait to get people back in the studio and teaching Pilates classes in person.
One of the things that I'm most looking forward to is to take this mask off and not to worry anymore of wearing PPE at work.
I'm looking forward to welcoming people back into the pub. I'm looking forward to doing my job properly without any restrictions.
Visiting the Crucible Theatre and the Owls at Hillsborough. Having a haircut.
I just can't wait to travel to the seaside, order the biggest portion of fish and chips, go sit on a bench and freeze in the great British weather.
I'm so looking forward to getting back to park run on a Saturday morning, connecting with people, exercising in the outdoors in the community. It's just so good for my mental and physical health.
I particularly want to meet all my friends from my chair aerobics classes.
I absolutely cannot wait to be back in the stadium on match days with my son. Watching our favourite football team, just the anticipation, the excitement, the adrenaline, the roar of the crowd.
I'm so excited to go to lots of places, and the place I'm most excited for is Disneyland. Bye.
Oh, what are you hoping for? Lots of things to look forward to, aren't there, when this is finally over? You may be looking forward to voting in the West Yorkshire mayoral election. Who knows? The Conservative Party has announced its candidate for the West Yorkshire mayor. Matt Robinson has been a local councillor in Leeds since 2010. He says his priorities will include focusing on economic recovery, improving community safety and a plan for a better connected public transport system for the whole of West Yorkshire.
I think the devolution deal offers a great opportunity and great funding to the region. And with the right person in place, we can help drive the region forward, help grow businesses, improve our economy and improve people's life chances.
Of warmer climates, if only. I think the rolling hills give it away, though, because this has been certainly turning heads in the Derbyshire Peak District after a multicoloured macaw was spotted flying over the hills. Motley is his name, and he belongs to Chloe Brown, who's trained him since he was very young to fly freely and wild and then return to her. Motley is fast becoming an internet sensation. Ian White has had his binoculars out again.
Give me just a second.
This is Motley, a 2.5-year-old hybrid macaw who's fast becoming an internet sensation.
So he's a blue and gold crossed with a green wing macaw. So he's got the very gentle giant nature from the green wing, but he's also got the very clownish personality from the blue and gold.
Packed with personality, this bird can be very affectionate.
Well, with Motley, he has a few phrases that he absolutely loves. So he says, I love you quite a lot. He says hello. He will get into everything and anything.
Motley started to get famous when his owner Chloe decided to take him free flying, training him to fly in the wild over the Peak District and then return to her.
Birds aren't meant to be kept in cages. I mean, in the wild, they will fly on average 15 to 17 miles a day. So we have to give them that exercise. They've got very complex respiratory systems and they need that exercise to keep fit, healthy. It's also mental stimulation as well.
It might look fun, but free flying can be dangerous.
You've got risks that are involved, so it'll be like birds of prey, the wind, just different obstacles, roads.
Motley turns heads wherever he goes. It's hard not to see his red, green and blue feathers.
He's also got some yellow under his wings as well.
So do macaws make good pets?
I've had a lot of people when we've been out and about saying, oh, I want one. It's an 18, 90-year commitment. I mean, he will be going into my will. So I would never say to anyone, just go out and go and get a macaw.
Flying free, this bird has become a celebrity.
Everybody takes photos of him and videos. We found him in someone's music video yesterday, so he gets absolutely everywhere.
So if you're in the Peak District, keep an eye out. You might just spot Motley on the wing. Ian White, BBC Look North.
Oh, isn't he absolutely stunning? The likelihood is he'll outlive us. 80
it's
or 90.
amazing. There'll be plenty of takers, won't they? Yeah. I can't believe they'll live to 90 years. But, I mean, in the Peak District today, it's been absolutely fantastic. Let's show you a few pictures that have come in. That's Rowcliffe with the blue sky that started across the Pennines and headed towards the east. The second picture is, unbroken sunshine there in Hipper Home with the blue sky. And the third picture is Scarborough, the last to brighten up, but the sunshine eventually got there. And I think certainly a good deal of sunshine to come, especially towards next weekend. It's looking very promising indeed. The addresses are on your screen right now. So let's look at tomorrow's headline. A bit of a west-east split because there will be a bit of patchy rain across the Pennines, but further east it's mild and dry and certainly pretty windy wherever you are. These weather fronts flirting with the Pennines over the next couple of days, but eventually it's going to push eastwards. So Thursday looks a lot brighter with some sunshine, and then eventually this high pressure in charge for next weekend. So it's looking pretty favourable as we exit February into early March, early next week. There's the weather front then, the cloud that brought the patchy rain this morning and that big clearance that brought all the sunshine this afternoon. So we're all fine and clear at the moment. I think overnight there might be a bit of patchy low cloud and in general cloud feeding in from the southwest later. Not before we've had a touch of ground frost. We'll see temperatures coming in at around about 2 or 3 degrees. Tomorrow's high water times then in Scarborough at 1:03, early hours of the morning, Bridlington at 1:20. So it's a fine start, plenty of sunshine towards the coast, but further west, a lot more cloud, and there's that rain affecting the Yorkshire Dales, a bit of patchy rain for the West Yorkshire Pennines, but once you get away from the Pennines, eastern parts of South Yorkshire, into the Vale of York towards the coast, it's going to be fine with some bright or sunny spells. And in the brighter spots, very good temperatures, 14 in York tomorrow, that's 57 Fahrenheit, but with a fresh to strong south or southwest wind. Further ahead then, exceptionally mild on Wednesday with patchy rain eventually pushing eastwards. And then Thursday, Friday and the weekend, a lot of fine and settled weather. The winds fall light, it's dry with some sunshine, a bit of frost and fog at night. And that is the forecast, Amy.
What are you most looking forward to, Paul, about the easing of lockdown?
Having a beer.
So predictable. I knew you'd say that.
I'm going to football.
Again, so predictable. Amanda will be back with more on the roadmap out of lockdown at 10:30 this evening. Bye-bye.